Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. My name is Bev McCullough and I'm from Flamingo Toes, and I am super excited to be here with you tonight on this fun Wednesday evening. We are streaming live, and we are live to my Facebook group, the Flamingo Toes Stitch and Share Club, and my YouTube channel. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys tonight. We are stitching up a sew along for my Walking in Sunshine quilt. This is what the quilt looks like. It is a fun, so I've got it upside down here, but it can go any direction. So this is a fun mini quilt that is a great start to curved piecing if you've never done it before. And it is from my book, Make It Mini, which has a whole bunch of, it has 13 mini quilts. I don't know if that counts as a whole bunch or not. It does to me. It felt like a whole bunch when I was making it. 13 mini quilts, all with a touch of embroidery or a lot of embroidery. And so it's a fun combo of textures and styles and things like that. So we've done a couple sew-alongs. This is our second sew-along with a project out of the book. So this is Walking on Sunshine, and I have the book, Make It Mini, in my shop. It's linked in today's video if you want to join in and sew along with us. So we have had, this is week 4, we've had several weeks of progress. So the first week we just had a kickoff week, and then the second week we pieced together our blocks, which were very simple, just curved piece blocks. There's 16 of them. And then the next week we assembled our quilt tops so that basically it looked like this, except I don't have the borders on this one. I'm using this one as my sample for today. And I didn't put the final borders on it, but this is what it was like last week. And then this week we are adding embroidery. So here is what the quilt looks like with the borders. And then the center of the quilt has a really pretty little wreath embroidered in the center. And so we're going to talk about how to do all that. We're going to go over transferring the design, and then we're going to talk about picking floss and how to do that. And then we're going to start stitching, and we're going to go through 3 stitches tonight. We're going to go through the back stitch, satin stitch, and French knot. So it's going to be a really fun evening and tons of information. So I hope you guys are excited. I am. I want to see who's here. We have Dawn here and Kathy's here. I'm glad to see you too. And Laura's here. Hey Laura. And Dolores is here from Mississippi. Is it warm down in Mississippi? It was crazy warm here today. Just weirdly warm for February. Well, I guess it's March, but still weirdly warm. I think we're supposed to get storms tonight, so hopefully they don't get too loud for us. But yeah, it was kind of a weirdly warm day. We had the windows open, which was lovely. But yeah, it was nice. And Pam and Judy are here. Valeria's here. Connie, hey Connie. And Christine's here from very snowy northern Nevada. Yeah, it's backwards. Like, we would normally be wintry right now, and it feels like California and Nevada and Arizona are freezing. So, what's going on? Oh, Valeria says that you're fixing to move to Colorado from Texas, and most of your sewing supplies are in boxes. Hey, I get that. I have been there. It's no fun, right? I hope your move goes well. Oh, Dolores, it's hot. Yeah, okay, it's hot here too. So, oh, and Janice is here. Nice. Janice has got snow. Well, stay cozy. Stay cozy and stitch with us. Okay, so, oh, Dorothy said it was finally not snowing in northern Utah today, but her yard is buried in snow. It was 35. Okay, I don't really want that either, Dorothy, but I would like maybe for March just a little bit cooler. I would be happy in the 50s range. I mean, you know, it's nothing to complain about in this big scheme of things by far. So we have a lot of ground to cover tonight. I will tell you, because I'm going to go through each of these steps, not quickly, but quicker than I would if an entire video was on the particular elements that I have linked in today's video description, my embroidery basics videos. You can find those on YouTube, and in each video, so it's a series on YouTube, and each video covers an item in this video in its own entirety. So there's a whole transferring your pattern video, a whole backstitch video, etc., etc. And along with those, in each video, there'll be a link to my blog post, and that blog post has like step-by-step written instructions and graphics if that's how you learn. And you know, I was trying to give you as much information as I can. So if you're a visual learner, there's a video. If you want to look at pictures, you know, kind of more that like older school illustration style, I have those on my blog. And then I also have written word instructions. So we want your stitching to be as successful as possible. So if you feel like you need more info or you need kind of a refresher after this week's video, you can check all those out, and they're available for you to watch at any time. So really fun. Oh, Janice says the embroidery videos are great and easy to follow. Thank you, Janice. That's awesome. I'm so glad. Okay, so shall we just dive into giveaways, this week's giveaways, so that we can start doing all the fun things? The giveaways are fun too, right? Like those are super fun, but the stitching and all that kind of stuff is super fun. So let's do that. I'm going to move our paper so that I don't show you who won without telling you what the prizes were. So every week we have a video, we have a giveaway. Every week that we have a video, we have a giveaway. And it's just my way of saying thank you guys for tuning in, and they're super easy to enter. All you have to do is leave any kind of comment, well, a nice comment. If it's not a nice comment, it goes away, so that one won't count. So any kind of comment on Facebook or YouTube and live or anytime during the week, I just take all those comments and put them in like a little random number generator, and that's the winner, and I announce the winner the following week. Next week is our last video for this so long. I can't believe it. It's gone by so fast. So this week I have a nice big prize for you guys. I have 3 5-inch stackers of blue jean, which is Christopher Thompson's gorgeous collection. It's not his collection that's releasing this month. That's called Cheerfully Red, but it is a beautiful blue collection. Let me show you the back here so you can see those pretty colors. There's a couple, well, 3 or 4 shades of blue and some grays and some like creamy white colors. So it's a really pretty collection. There's a lot of texture to the backgrounds of the fabrics that look like jeans, so it's really fun that way. So I have 3 5-inch stackers for you guys, which is the same as a charm pack. You guys know that by now, right? I have for you one of my needle minder display boards. So I'm going to hold this up here a little bit so you can see it better. So this is a wooden board, and you can use it either direction, horizontally or vertically, like you can see from the picture there. And it is a chalkboard, and it is magnetic. So you can put all of your cute needle minders on here. You can put notes, you can draw pictures, you can do whatever you like. It also has 2, it's got hanging holes on the side and on both sides, so that you can hang it horizontally or vertically if you would rather not have it be on a tabletop, if you want it on your wall. So I have these in my shop. I just have 3 left. So if you're wanting, I have them more on order, but I don't have them yet. So if you're really wanting one of these, I have it linked in the video description, because I only have 3 in stock. You might, or actually I only have 2 in stock. You might want to hurry. Okay, so this is part of the prize, along with the blue jean fabric. And then, because you need a needle minder to put on your cute needle minder board, I have one of my newest needle minders. This is the mason jar needle minder. So it's a little vintage mason jar with some little flowers in it. And so this is this week's video, and our winner is Deborah Pruden. Deborah, you're our winner. If you are watching at any point, send me an email, bev@flamingotoes.com, and I will get your prize out in the mail to you. So congrats, Deborah. Let's put that out of the way here. I have all kinds of things stacked around today because we need so many supplies this week. Okay, so for this week's giveaway, I have another fun giveaway for you guys. I have a box of, I don't even know if you can get these anymore. This might be vintage. So this is a Crayola box of fat quarters. So Crayola partners with Riley Blake Designs. So some of our solid colors are Crayola colors, and some, we actually do some licensed fabrics for Crayola as well. So this is a box of 10 vintage-ish colors. You can see the color palette on the back of the box there. There's a little scratch on the box, but the fabrics are perfectly adorable and fine. So there's 10 fat quarters in here, all in those great colors. I think I took that away. So those are the colors that are in the box. Isn't that a pretty palette? So you can, use them to make up this pattern that's on the back, or you can use them for whatever you would like. So 10 fat quarters in here. And then I have one of Cindy's needle minders. Cindy Cloward is the owner of Riley Blake, and she developed this awesome needle minder. I love these. So they're super ergonomic. You put your finger in the hole this way, and you can kind of hold it like this. And it's really, really easy to use and comfortable for your finger. So it makes unpicking really easy. So I have one of those for you, and that's in a pretty white color. And then I have something cool and different. So this is from DMC, and I don't know how to say that, Etoile. I think it's their Etoile box. So there are 35 floss skeins in here, and I'm going to take this cool little foam thing off of here and see if I can hold, yeah, they're kind of taped in there. So here's what I have for you guys, and let me move this just a little bit. Can you see the shimmer in these? So they all have a little bit of like a glitter to them, and they have a slightly thicker texture. Let me see if it kind of describes on the back what we have here. No, I should have looked it up. So a little bit of a thicker texture, almost not like a crewel type thickness, but it's definitely more of a kind of yarnish texture. I'm going to hold it up and see if you can see that. Can you see, like, along the top there, the thickness of it? So DMC does sell directly to the public, so you could find this on their website, or you could find it in craft stores or fabric stores like Joann's. But this is a really cool box, you guys, and you could do some fun things. Oh, look, here, I have a little booklet. Let me see if it says what this is. Oh, mercy, these are tiny, tiny words. Oh, look, there's patterns, you guys. Look how pretty. Aren't those fun? Okay, so it doesn't actually say what it is. It says Stitch with the Stars. I don't know. I don't know what kind of floss it is. If somebody knows that, feel free to dive in. Oh, Dorothy says, those are wonderful for embroidery. She made some beads using the black and yellow, and they had wonderful texture. Awesome. Thanks for that, Dorothy. Okay, so this is part of this week's giveaway. So make sure you leave a comment for your entry. Super easy, and I will announce the winner next week. And next week is our last week. So next week we are going to go over quilting. Quilting our mini quilt, and I'm going to give you some tips for quilting with embroidery. We're going to talk about a few different ways that you could quilt up your mini, whether you're using a long arm or a regular machine, or if you want to quilt it by hand. So I'm going to have some ideas for you, and we're going to just talk about different finishing methods for your cute quilt. So it's going to be a fun last week. All right, are you guys ready to get started? I'm ready to get started. All right. So let's switch to our top camera here. And I am going to shimmy over a little bit so that I can fit in the screen. And I have a little bit more room over here. Okay, are you guys ready? This is going to be fun. So what you need to do is, in the book is the pattern for the blocks, because they're curved pieces. You have to use a pattern to cut those out, and the pattern for our embroidery. So I've just made a copy on my copier of the pattern. and it's very easy to do. I just did a color copy. If you can't do that, then you can go to your local like Staples or UPS store or something like that and copy it that way. I'm going to scooch over a little bit more. Okay, so you can copy it that way, and it's easy to do. You will need a correctly sized copy of your design in order for it to fit on your design in your mini quilt in the right way. So there's a couple different methods for transferring this. I'm not going to show you all of them, and there are several methods that I cover in that transfer video that you can reference. But the two easiest ways would be to tape this in, if you don't have a light box. A light box is basically just a light source that you can put the pattern on and your fabric on top of it and trace it that way. Or you can use a window. So tape this in the window, put the design, put your mini quilt on top of it in the window, and you can kind of see it a little bit here. Your light will shine through the window, through the pattern, through your fabric, and you can trace it with a marking pen. Or you can use a really fine pencil or something like that, but I like to use like a fine tip marking pen. So that is one way. The other way, and this is the way that I always use for transferring designs, is I buy, and I should have linked to them in today's video. Sorry I didn't do that. I will add that later. But you can look it up. It's Sublime Stitching. That is who makes these. These are transfer pens. So they're iron-on fine tip transfer pens. She is the only one that does a fine tip. And it is a 0.5 millimeter, so it's very, very fine. Let's see if you can see the tip of that there. You can kind of see how fine that is. It is extremely helpful when you are doing embroidery to have a fine tip, because then you can stitch right over it, even the smallest flowers, and not have your transfer lines show outside of your thread. Because this is a permanent or mostly permanent ink, you want to cover it up as much as possible. So Sublime Stitching is the name of the shop, and you can find her online, Sublime Stitching, and she has these pens in several colors. I have a few different colors, and I kind of choose a pen color that matches mostly the threads that I'm using. Okay, hey Marie, I'm glad you're here. Okay, I just want to make sure I haven't missed any questions while I've been talking. You guys like the giveaways? That's awesome. Okay, I am so glad you guys are here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because I am going to iron this on, I'm going to trace on the reverse side. Now, it's a little bit hard for you guys to see in the video, but I can see this pretty well. You can also do this in a window or with a light box if you want to. But I am just going to go ahead and trace my design. You want to do a pretty good job of following this exactly, because this is the line that you are going to stitch on top of. So you want to have a pretty decent sized, I should have done some of this. We're gonna just fly through these here. I'm just going to trace my leaves. Fortunately, this isn't a super complicated design. So I'm going to add in some little dots where I'm doing my French knots. Just doing little circles. And I'm just gonna kind of keep turning this and tracing my leaves. And while I'm doing this, let's talk about color choices. So we're using 6-strand floss. I am using 6-strand floss for my stitching, and I am using Aurifil, which are just like the other colors of floss, other brands of floss, except that they do come on a wooden spool, which is really nice. It keeps it tidy, and there's also quite a bit of floss. There's 18 yards of floss on these spools. So I really like that because, yes, I'm paying a little bit more, but I'm also getting a little bit more, and they last longer. They're very tidy. They keep it so that, you know, when you take off a little bit of floss, you still have this super tidy spool, and you don't have to worry about just, you know, your skeins kind of being a jumble afterwards. So you can use something different if you want a little bit more texture or something There's starting to rain. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. A little more texture, you could use like a pearl cotton, and then you would just use one strand of pearl cotton. But we are going to do 3 strands of floss for all of our stitching. And in 6-strand floss, that just means that you're going to separate it out and use half. So you're going to use 3 strands of floss for all of this. Sorry, this is taking a little bit long. And as far as picking colors, I recommend choosing colors that complement and coordinate with your fabrics and prints in your mini quilt. They don't have to be exactly the same. So in the sample that I did, let me show you this. I keep talking and stopping tracing. In the sample I did here, there's an assortment of fabrics that are pinks and navies, and then in the florals here I have some greens, but these are aquas. So for the center, it's mostly aquas and blues. I used a green that picks up some of the green florals here, but I also did flowers that are light blue, and these are navy. So you can kind of think outside the box a little bit as far as what colors you do for your fabrics. I mean, that coordinate with your fabrics. And then for my French knots, I picked up this like bright pink color. So that really pops. So think about your leaves, think about your fabrics, and what would go well with them, and what would kind of complement and be interesting as well. That is the same thing that I did with this version of the one that we were doing for the sew along. There's a lot of greens and pinks in that, but I wanted to kind of change up my color scheme just a little bit. So here I am all traced now, and I did 2 shades of green, and then I added in some gray because I wanted to pull in some of the like black tones in the fabric. So I picked this gray. So I think it makes a really pretty combination. And then it also, you know, these little pinks that I matched to the pink really pop in that as well. So just things to think about while you're picking your floss is what colors would go well with it. So now we are going to iron our fabric. So I am going to put the center of my quilt here, and it's very easy to know where your center is. Okay, I think I wanted this to be the top. Not that it matters, but it just helps me knowing looking at it. Okay, so here is the center of my mini quilt where all 4 of my circles come together, and I'm going to give the center of my quilt a good press so that it's nice and flat. So I also want to make sure that I am putting this in the center of this because it is a circle. If you're off a little bit, it's going to be really obvious. So what you want to do is kind of use your pattern as a guide and fold it in half and use these leaves as, you know, kind of line up the leaves here and the leaves that are showing through, and sort of finger press your pattern in half, and then do the same thing the other way. Line up your leaves and finger press that in half. So once you're done with that, let's see if I can show you, you have basically a cross in the center. Can you guys see that okay? There you go. That shows it a little bit better. And what you can do at that point is line that up with the center of your quilt. So that kind of guarantees that your wreath is in the center of that circle. And you can double check if you feel real concerned, because once this is ironed on, it's on for good. You can double check, okay, I've got about that much there, and I've got about that much there. Same here, and so I feel pretty confident that my piece is lined up and it is centered. So I'm going to hold this in place with one hand, and I'm going to bring my iron over and I'm just going to kind of hold it in place. I'm going to be careful because I don't want to shift around that transfer because it will shift. And then I've kept my hand here holding it in place. I'm going to peel this back and see how much is transferred. Okay, well I can see I haven't gotten it all. So I'm going to put that back down and I'm going to do a little bit more here. I'm doing this left-handed. So normally it's not, you can get it all in one press of the iron, but I'm kind of doing this backwards for you guys. So you can see we're almost there. I just have a couple leaves. I would probably stop at this point, but I do want it to be really nice and bright for you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and move my hand so that I can get that side of the design. Okay. There we go. Now we got a nice crisp leaf situation happening here. So you can see how easy that is and what an accurate transfer it makes because you've traced it correctly with this fine tip pen, and then you have it all on here and ready to go. So now we're going to start stitching. Is everybody good? Do we have any questions? Jeanette says, can you use freezer paper to trace on? As far as the pattern or for transferring the design, I've never done it on freezer paper. So you would trace onto the freezer paper and then iron it on? Is that what you're asking, Jeanette? I haven't actually ever done that, so I don't know. So I'm going to use a 6-inch hoop here. You can use whatever you have on hand. You don't have to buy a hoop especially for this if you have an 8-inch, or you could go as small as a 5-inch, but really not any smaller than that. I'm going to use a 6. So we're going to put the hoop end, the hoop side that doesn't have the ring, on the back side of this. And then we're going to put the front hoop part on and we're going to tighten it. You want to have your fabric pretty tight in your hoop because that's what keeps your stitches nice and flat. It doesn't have to be centered in here because you centered your design. So we're going to go ahead and put the hoop in like this, and that makes a nice flat surface. Okay, sorry Janice that I'm not more helpful with that. I don't know, you would have to give it a try, but that might work. I haven't ever done that before. I would be careful not to use wax paper because that's going to be kind of sticky. I'm going to add a needle minder to my project because we always add needle minders so that we don't stick our needles through our fabric and make extra holes. So, and if you want to pick up a needle minder, those are in my shop. You can find that at the bottom of today's video linked. So what I'm doing now is I have cut a length of embroidery floss. I'm using this pretty green for the base of my wreath and some of the leaves, and I'm just separating this out from 6 strands to 3 strands, and I'm just sort of separating it out with my thumb here. So now I've got 2 pieces that are 3 strands each, and I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle. I do lick the end of my floss to get it to go through. And I am going to do just a single, like a little loop twist knot. So I've wrapped the thread around my finger, and then I'm going to kind of push it off, twisting it as I go, and then pull that down to create a little knot at the end. And you can form that knot however you would like. So what we're going to start with is a back stitch first. And what is back stitched on this project is the line that forms the circle of the wreath. So I'm going to kind of gather this up a little bit. You're going to take your needle from back to front, and you can start it, this is kind of a weird angle. You can start it anywhere you'd like on that wreath and go ahead and bring it all the way up so that the knot is resting on the back, against the back of the fabric. and we're going to do a back stitch. And the way you do a back stitch is that you bring your needle down just a little ways underneath, let's see, to the back side, to the right of that where your thread comes out, and then you bring your needle up on the other side of where that thread comes out, but you want the space between where the thread is and the needle on each side to be the same, because that gives you a nice even stitch. So once you have that done, then you go ahead and pull your thread through, and you want it to lay flat against your fabric surface but not be so tight that your fabric's pulling in any way. So that is your first back stitch, and you just repeat that process all the way around the circle. So now I'm going to put my needle in right at the top of where that other stitch ends, and then bring it back out on this side of the needle. Again, you can kind of see how my space between the thread is even, and we're gonna do it again. And you just keep going and you follow your line all the way around the circle. Just continuing to form those little stitches as you go. So it's really easy and fun. Now what you can do with this, because what I did, let me get my design, I need to tighten my fabric here. As you stitch, your fabric will probably get looser, especially if you're a beginner and you're kind of pulling on your fabric to get it through. Just take a minute and pull your fabric so that it's nice and tight in that hoop. You don't want to stretch your fabric out, but you do want to keep it tight in there. So I'm going to just show you here again. You can see on this one, this dark green is the circle that I formed here, but some of my leaves are green too. So what I did when I initially stitched this is I stitched the back stitch, but as I came to the leaf that I wanted to be green, I went ahead and stitched the leaves at the same time. So it kind of just made it easier, and I didn't have to stitch and then go back. So it also kept the floss from doing as much traveling as possible, because I already was at that spot with the green. And I will tell you that the pattern kind of shows you different colors. You can see here on the pattern, you'll decide where you do your different colors. It doesn't matter if you put a leaf in the wrong spot, or you change up how your leaves are. No one's going to know that. You just want kind of a variety of colors, and you want it to sort of be random. So don't stress too much about what color your leaves are and where they are. So that is a back stitch, and I'm going to do a couple more of those, and then we're going to get to this green leaf right here, and we're going to do a satin stitch. So I'm just going to do a couple more stitches. As you do it, your hand will sort of get in that motion, and it will be a little bit more comfortable for you. And the more comfortable it is, the straighter your line will be. And the more even your space is between each stitch, and the evenness of your stitches will also give you a more even line, if that makes sense. So Donna says that my directions are easy to follow. Yay, Donna, that's great. And Rhonda's late, but she said her power just came back on after 8 days. Well, my goodness, Rhonda, I'm so sorry about that. I'm glad your power's back on, and I very much appreciate you coming to the video after your power came back on. My goodness. Laura said one of these days she's going to give embroidery a try. Love the way it looks. That darn thing called work keeps getting in your way. Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. It is very fun and super addicting, so hopefully you can give it a try soon. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just go back. Rather than bring my needle all the way back up, I'm just going to do a stitch back, because we are going to stitch this little leaf. And I'm going to hold this up here so you can see a little bit better. Hopefully this isn't too awkward. So for a satin stitch, we're going to fill in this entire area. And this is how I do leaves. This is not how you have to do leaves. There's, tons of different ways to stitch this, and so don't feel like if you have a different method you can't do that, or if you see another method that you like on YouTube, please feel free to do this however you like. But this is how I do it. So I like my leaves to have a bit of a stem line down the center, at least on the lower third. So I kind of go back and forth with mine. So I've brought my needle up right here. It's about a third of the way. And I'm going to take a straight stitch down to the center of my leaf. So I now have this little straight line. And I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. Even though it's right next to my back stitching, I'm going to do that exact same thing. So I've gotten 2 little lines in my stitching. Now I'm going to go back to the right side, and I'm going to go up just a little bit above where you can see where my needle's coming out there, above that previous stitch. And I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to go about to the halfway point of that bottom center of my leaf. Oops, one sec, guys. Okay, sorry, my computer was funky there. It was about to die, and we don't want that. So now I'm going back to the left side, and I'm going to do the same thing. We're just going to do a couple more on each side, and then we're going to do something a little bit different. So I'm just filling in a few stitches here at the bottom. I'm going to hold this up here so you can see it a little bit better. And just going to the center portion on each side. And I am bringing my needle up outside of where that transfer line is because I want to cover it up completely. So now I've gone back and forth just a little bit at the bottom of my leaf. You can kind of see that. So I'm going to do another stitch right above this, but I'm going to sort of push in those threads to kind of give them a little bit more of a curved look. So I've brought my needle and I've just kind of pulled those threads a little bit in because I would like the bottom of my leaf to be a little bit more curved. So I've just sort of pushed those down a little bit. Same thing with this side. I'll see if I can get up here a little bit closer. I am just going to take my needle and I'm pushing with the needle before I put my needle in to sort of give that side of the leaf a little bit more of a curve. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to continue going back and forth for a few more stitches. We're stopping in the center because if you're bringing in a stitch from each side into the center, but not overlapping them, that's what gives us that sort of leaf vein. I don't know what to call that. Is that a vein in the middle of a leaf? Sort of our leaf vein look. Can you guys see that? You see how there's a vein down the center portion of the leaf? So let's do a couple more and then we're going to change that up again. A couple more back and forth. And to the center. So here we are. You can see that it's kind of back and forth there. And you can always go back and see, it looks like if I'm looking really closely, have a little bit of space here where my thread, my background fabric is showing through. You can always go in and fill in more stitches if you need to. But I feel like that's a long enough vein. So now I am going to go to the top of my leaf. My hand's at a weird angle here. I'm going to go to the top of my leaf and bring my needle up, and I'm going to bring my thread down here, put my needle back down at the top center portion of that vein. So I've just done a straight stitch from the top of the leaf down to where that vein is. And now I am going to kind of fill in from side to side at an angle, kind of doing angled stitches. I'm going to fill in each side of that leaf. So, and it's just a little bit easier for me to go top down on this for some reason and have a nice even looking leaf. Again, you're gonna decide, you know, you'll have to stitch and play with it a little bit to see. You can see here how I'm, how I'm filling in that side. So you'll just decide, you know, what motion and what sort of fill works best for your brain. There's no really right or wrong way to do it, because the point is to just cover that entire leaf with stitching in a leaf-ish fashion, right? And you want your stitching lines to pretty much all go the same way. So that would be one of your goals. So now I'm going to get right up here so you can see how those stitching lines, there you go, now you can really see it. You can see how those stitching lines all angle in, down, and towards the center on that side of the leaf. So we're going to follow that same method on the right side. So we're just going to fill in from top to bottom, or top to that halfway point that we've already stitched up to for the right side. And just keep your stitches, you know, it doesn't have to be super tight, but you want to pull your thread so that it lays flush against your fabric. You don't want to pull it so tight that you see any pulls in the cotton of the fabric or any kind of puckering. So we don't want to get super tense or super like stressed about this whole process. It's supposed to be fun, right? Boy, the rain's really hard now. Okay, so I have filled in that entire leaf. So that is my first little green leaf, and that's all there is to it. So it's just a matter of going back and forth on either side to give yourself that vein in the center, and then filling in the top 2/3 with stitches that kind of go from the top in towards the center as well. If you have some thread, you know, you have one that you've placed and it's kind of wonky, it looks like it's off direction from the others, you can just do another stitch on top of it and cover it up. So don't stress, you don't feel like you have to take it out or anything like that. Just add a little bit more, and by doing that, it's going to give you even more of a 3D effect to your leaf. So that's not a bad thing at all. So you will just continue around this wreath, adding in, you know, these darker green leaves wherever you'd like them, and then add in your two other contrasting colors. So I used like this minty green and then this gray color. So I'm going to tie off my thread, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we're going to do French knots. So I'm just taking a couple small stitches on the back side. I'm not pulling it really tight because I don't want to pull my thread stitches off in on the front. And then I'm going to kind of bring my needle through, loop it through, and knot it. So that is all there is to a knot on the back side. So now I'm going to grab this peachy pink color and knot my needle just like I did with the green. So again, 3 strands of floss, and we're going to do some French knots. And I usually leave those till the end because they are a little bit looser. They sit on top of the fabric rather than going through the fabric like your satin stitch. I do tend to leave French knots and things like that that are looser stitches until the end. There's less chance of them being bumped or pulled or caught with your needle. So that's why I do all the back stitching and satin stitching first, and then those decorative French knots after. I'm glad you guys like the stitching. That's exciting. Thank you. Okay, so French knots. We have our needle threaded with 3 strands of floss. It is knotted on the end. So we're going to bring up our needle from back to front, a little bit of thunder there for atmosphere, until the knot is against the back of the fabric. So here's my big tip. You're going to want to kind of do this two-handed. I don't really feel like you can do French knots without using both your hands. So I have held, now this is for right-handed, you're going to reverse all this if you're left-handed. I've held the needle in my right hand and I have the floss in my left hand. And I'm just loosely holding it between my thumb and index finger. What you're going to do is, and I'll do another one of these closer, I'll stand up, but I want to show you overall the movement and then we'll do another close-up. So I take the needle and I'm going to wrap it around the floss, or the floss around the needle 3 times. So you can see I have 3 wraps of the floss around the needle. And I'm going to put my needle back down just right next to where I brought it up. So here, I've got, let me loosen this up here. 3, here I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3. So you can see how they kind of pull closer together. And I'm bringing my needle down right next to where I brought it up from the back to the front. Now I'm going to pull my needle with my other hand, but I am not letting go of my thread with my left hand. It is very important that you hold on to that. So I've grabbed the needle with my right hand and I am pulling on the thread, but I'm not going to let go of my left hand until I basically have to. And the reason for that is it's very easy with a French knot. Here, I'll show you how cute it looks. Isn't it so sweet? The reason for that is a French knot is basically a wrap knot on the top of your fabric. And if you're not holding on to that end, it is very easy for that wrapped knot to form halfway up on your thread without you getting it through. I had the worst time with French knots for years. I started doing cross stitch when I was, I don't know, 12 or something, like eons ago, you guys. And I hated them so much. I could never get them to work that I ended up just doing like tiny, tiny satin stitches, one on top of each other to basically make a bump of stitches. And obviously that's not ideal, but I just couldn't get it until I figured out to hold on to that thread with my left hand. Donna, a colonial knot would work. I haven't done a whole lot of those. I can't remember if the size is smaller or not. I would have to look that up and research that. Now you can do different sized French knots based on the amount of floss. So if you're using 2 strands of floss and you wrap 3 times, your knot is going to be smaller. Same if you're using 6 strands of floss and you wrap 3 times, you're going to have a big fat knot just because you have more thread in it. You can also increase and decrease the size of your knots by the number of wraps. You can do 2 or 4 or whatever you would like to do. But the standard is 3 wraps, and I am using 3 strands of floss. So I'm going to actually stand up and try and do this whole thing a little bit closer so you guys can see. All right, you got that? So I'm going to bring my needle up from back to front. Oh, okay. Are we still streaming? You guys good? Our power flickered. I'm not entirely sure if we're still good. If we are, holler. I think we're okay, but we might need to cut this video short. If we're still good, let me know. Donna thinks that the colonial knot is smaller. Okay, I'm gonna try and do this real quick and then we probably need to finish. Okay. There we go. It's not really finding it. It might be a little confused. Okay, I'm gonna show you here again. It's still a little bit blurry. I don't know quite why it's not focusing for me. It might be because of that power. So I'm going to show you down here so you can kind of see. I'm going to hold the thread with my left hand, and I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to put the needle back in right next to where I have it so that that thread is, sorry, it's not doing that, so that the thread wrap is right against the fabric. And then I am going to pull, but I'm holding on to that thread with my left hand. So I'm just pulling gently. You don't want to do it too fast because it will form that knot until you get to the end and then let it go. So that is how you do it. Let me see if I just do that. See if it will. There we go. Okay, so I'll do one more really quick since I kind of reset it. And then I think we'll be done because of the storm. Okay, so I've pulled my thread up. I'm going to grab it with my left hand. I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3 times. I am bringing my needle right back down next to where it was. You can see how they're all right there together. And those thread wraps are right up against my fabric. Now I'm going to grab my needle from the back side, kind of gently pull and let go of the thread. And that basically, there we go. There's our 3 little perfect French knots. Okay, everybody, those are the steps for the quilt. So you're going to backstitch this entire solid line. You're going to, excuse me, satin stitch all of the leaves, and then you're going to add your little French knot flowers everywhere that there is a polka dot on the line. So that is the scoop. That's all we have for this week. Let me go back to our front camera. So that's what we have for this week. Hopefully that didn't take too long. Again, I have those videos for you to check out if you want more information on any of the stitches or any other stitches that I haven't covered today. You can check those out on my YouTube channel and on my blog in the Embroidery Basics section. So really fun, easy. I hope you guys feel successful and are willing to try your stitches. Post your photos in the Facebook group if you would like to show them off. We definitely want to see them, even if you don't feel like it's perfect, which it's not, nobody is. Then, you know, please let us cheer you on and post your photos, okay? So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll be back next week with quilting tips and info on how to quilt quilts with embroidery on them. I hope you guys have a fabulous week. Stay warm, stay dry, stay cool, whatever your weather is doing. Stay cozy, how about that? Find a quilt, cozy up. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.